Hey everyone, welcome back to Custodome Productions again, and welcome back to, I think this is the third time I've done this, the series where I look at all the albums I've listened to in the previous month and sort of give some basic thoughts on them. Before we jump into the albums themselves this month, I just want to highlight the fact that you can send me recommendations via Rate Your Music itself, as this person here has done, and I will get to them eventually, obviously. For whatever reason I didn't get to these ones this month, but I will, especially if more people send me these. So yeah, if you have Rate Your Music and you use it, you can send me recommendations if you have any. Okay though, so the first album that I listened to this month was Tom Scott's album Desire. Tom Scott obviously is a close collaborator with Steely Dan, did a lot of horn arranging and general sort of work with Steely Dan. So I gave this album a listen. I think it was his most popular on Rate Your Music, or his most rated on Rate Your Music, which obviously isn't a lot, there's only 38 ratings there, but yeah, I gave this a listen. Yeah, it was okay. Obviously this album I listened to quite a while ago now, so it's not fully fresh in my mind, but it was a fine record. Didn't really leave any lasting impression on me, but it was sort of just generally quite comforting, quite chill jazz music. Smooth jazz, I think, is probably the best descriptor for it. And I gave this one a 7 out of 10. Okay, this isn't really an album, but I decided to check out In Rainbows, the disc 2 for In Rainbows, which I guess is sort of like a bonus disc that they issued with, that Radiohead issued with In Rainbows. I'm a big fan of In Rainbows. It's been an album that's grown on me sort of over time for quite a while with each listen. Still not quite at the point with it where a lot of people are, where they think it's their best record, but that's kind of another discussion. But in terms of this album, I think that if you've heard In Rainbows, you can basically sort of speculate on what a disc 2 might sound like. It's only 26 minutes long, so it is definitely not got quite the cohesion or maybe the overall quality of an actual proper full-length LP, but if you're looking for more In Rainbows or looking for more Radiohead type stuff and you for whatever reason haven't checked this out, I definitely would give it a recommendation, and I gave it an 8 out of 10. Okay, first city pop album of the series, I think. I've always been a big fan of city pop, obviously, with its sort of connections to other genres I like. And this album, Awakening by Hiroshi Sato, was recommended to me by a friend. And yeah, it's really good. It's one of my favourite city pop albums I've heard in a long while. And yeah, it features a singer, Wendy Matthews, on basically every track, who sings in English. She does a really good job, and I gave this an 8 out of 10, but I could see that going up in the future. King of Limbs by Radiohead. I guess I was going on a little bit of a Radiohead binge. I think there's only 2 albums of theirs that I haven't heard now after hearing this one. And I hate to sound like a sort of a contrarian or anything, but I thought this album was a little bit underrated, to be honest. I didn't see it significantly lacking in comparison to their other stuff, at least some of their other stuff. Obviously far from my favourite Radiohead album, but I think 3.25 average when some of their other albums have like over a 4, a little bit strange to me. I gave this one a 4 out of 10. Sorry, a 4 out of 5, which is an 8 out of 10. Definitely an album that I'm going to need to return to sort of establish my opinions on it. I think that's the case with a lot of like later Radiohead albums, like I was saying, In Rainbows took me a while to sort of solidify an opinion on it, but yeah, this is pretty good, and if you've sort of avoided this one as a Radiohead fan for whatever reason, I would definitely recommend it. Okay, Currents by Tame Impala. So I've never heard a Tame Impala album before listening to this one, and I have to say I'm not hugely drawn back to checking out the rest of his stuff after this. Not like necessarily that it was particularly bad, but I did find that eventually that, especially with the fairly hefty 51-minute running time, a lot of these tracks started to blend together a little bit. I get that, it's a sort of a mood album, a sort of vibe album. By the end of it, I was sort of getting a little bit bored. Nothing really was grabbing me with this album. I respect his style, I respect what he's doing, and I can acknowledge that, there's definitely a place for this, but yeah, this was not really for me. I gave this a 6 out of 10. And yeah, on a similar vein, Boston's self-titled album. So this is like a pretty massive 70s rock album, kind of one of the biggest, probably one of my biggest oversights in sort of the 70s rock era that I hadn't heard yet. Obviously, I knew More Than a Feeling, but other than that, this was all new to me. And it's definitely not my sort of thing, generally. It's very sort of stadium rocky, but I sort of respect it. It's not really my thing. I only gave it a 7, but I respected it. It was never really grating on me. Obviously, there's some great playing on here, some very impressive playing. Yeah, it was just good to sort of check this album out, considering its sort of iconic status. Antics by Interpol. I think this is their second album that I'd been meaning to listen to for a while, because I'm pretty fond of their first album, even if I haven't heard it that many times. And yeah, this was definitely more of the same for me. Not quite as memorable, perhaps, but judging by the fact that I've only really heard their first album maybe twice and this one once, it definitely needs a little while for me to sort of solidify my opinions on it again. Yeah, for the moment being, I don't have a huge amount to say, but I think at some point I might come back to a lot of these albums that I don't have a lot to say on and give some more solid thoughts. Okay, another album that isn't really an album, Basement Tapes by Bob Dylan and the Band, which is self-explanatory. It's recordings of Bob Dylan playing with the band. I'm a big fan of the band. I really love their first 3 albums especially, and also The Last Waltz, and obviously I'm Bob Dylan. So yeah, this was definitely on my list to check out for a while now, but it was really just that sort of 76-minute running time that put me off. It's pretty cool hearing tracks like Tears of Rage and This Wheel's on Fire taking shape, and it's also cool hearing $1 Million Bash, which I know best from a Fairport Convention cover. I gave this an 8 out of 10. Okay, Paul and Linda McCartney's Ram. This is often sort of regarded as Paul McCartney's best solo album, and I can definitely see why, because it's got lots of pretty good tracks on here. I was particularly a fan of the medley of Uncle Albert and Admiral Horsey. I think that's a really good track, but yeah, just all the way through really strong. Like this page list, it sort of traverses quite a few genres, but it's very recognisably Paul McCartney, I would say. It's a very strong set of songs, and I think that people who would say that this is the best post-Beatles album, I can't necessarily disagree, even if I prefer some other albums. But yeah, I get this an 8 out of 10. Beach Boys Today, which is... when did this one come out? So just give me a second here. 3 albums before Pet Sounds, so it's definitely in the style of like an early Beach Boys record, of course. Obviously, probably best known for the track Help Me Rhonda, which is my favourite track on the album. But yeah, just all around, I think I preferred this one to Summer Days and Summer Nights overall, but I would need to listen to them both again. I get this one an 8 out of 10 though. Bruce, another Bruce album, slowly rounding out the 70s. Yeah, Darkness on the Edge of Town. This is a bit more sort of in the style of what I would expect of Bruce Springsteen, unlike some of the other albums I've heard, like The Wild, the Innocent, and the E Street Shuffle, and Nebraska. This was a little bit more traditional Bruce Springsteen, a la Born to Run, which I'm not necessarily as big of a fan of, but I can really appreciate it. I've sort of went a bit more into depth on what I thought of Bruce Springsteen in my previous video of this series, but yeah, this is similar to Born to Run. I gave this a 7 out of 10. Okay, so I listened to 2 Black Sabbath albums this month. Obviously, with the passing of Ozzy Osbourne, I decided to return. I've always been a big fan of Paranoid. That's always been my favourite Black Sabbath album, but I'd also heard their debut, as well as Master of Reality, which are both pretty good. But yeah, on recommendation from a friend, I checked out Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, and then by myself I checked out Volume 4 as well. Sabbath Bloody Sabbath is pretty excellent. I can definitely see this album going up from an 8 out of 10. Honestly, I'm definitely going to be returning to this. At this point in time, this is probably my second favourite Sabbath album. Really great, just all the way through. I love the title track. Great vocal performance from Ozzy. I think he's pretty incredible. Really love this album. 8 out of 10 for now, but probably going to go up. And then Volume 4 I also gave an 8 out of 10, but I think it might be a bit more likely to stay there. I was really impressed by this album. It's pretty experimental, it's pretty weird. Yeah, no, this is a pretty great album too, and if you haven't heard either of these, this is definitely the time to delve a bit more into Black Sabbath, even if you're not a big heavy metal fan. I'm not at all, but I have a lot of time for Black Sabbath as a band, so yeah. J.J. Cale's Naturally, which is not at all like Black Sabbath, but is guitar focused, I suppose. J.J. Cale is a pretty famous, pretty prolific guitarist. Cocaine, I think, is probably his most famous song because it got covered by Eric Clapton. But yeah, very influential guitarist who I've known about for a long time. Basically all of my life, actually, because my dad has always played his music. And yeah, I'm a big fan. Very relaxing guitar music. It's the sort of album that I will put on if I'm like trying to do something else at the time and I just want to check out something new. Oh, this is his debut. I didn't realize that. Yeah, this is his debut record, and his most rated on Rate Your Music has about double what his next highest would. Really chill, really relaxing, great playing. Anyway, that's that for this month. Sorry if I didn't go into too much depth on a lot of these albums, but that's, you know, that's how it goes sometimes with first listens. This is just sort of an effort to put out more consistent videos, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed. If you have any recommendations, let me know, either through comments or through this system on Rate Your Music. Let me know what you think of any of these albums and what you've been listening to, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.